and welcome back to my channel. My name is Vanissia. This is the Woolly Worker Knitting Podcast, and today I am joining you for episode 31 of the Woolly Worker Knitting Podcast. I'm really happy to be filming today. I've got lots of lovely updates to give you all, and I'm wearing my one and only finished item of the week, and I'm really happy to be showing it to you. It's really lovely and fun to wear, and I can't wait to see myself when I'm editing the video and see how bright this colour is, but I'll talk about that when it comes to it. So this is my finished item. There's I think 3 works in progress that I'm working on at the moment. 2 of them are new cast-ons that you haven't seen before. The other one is the Yell, which I've made a lot of progress on, and that was a lot in part thanks to your comments on the previous podcast episode. Thank you so much for the feedback. Not really any acquisitions. There's going to be maybe 1 or 2 plans for the future that maybe I need your help on, depending on if I wait for receiving your opinion or if I cast on already. But yeah, as always, if you want to find me on other social media, you can find me on Ravelry and on Instagram at The Woolly Worker, same as here on YouTube. You can also support me on Ko-fi or Ko-fi by donating just the price of a cup of coffee, for example, or you can buy me a pattern from my Ravelry wishlist if you want to support me that way. You can also join the Discord, and I think that's it for all the social media links. All the patterns and yarn mentions will be in the description below. There are timestamps, and my measurements are below as well. So I think by this point you know the drill. So without further ado, let's just jump straight into the first section, which is what I am wearing. This is the Slightly Sassy V by Amy Share. I cast this on because I wanted to take part in her knit along she was organizing. It was either using one of her yarns, she has an online shop now, or using one of her patterns, and this is one of her patterns then obviously. This is kind of reminding me of the Cumulus Tee by Petite Knit, which is in fingering weight, made in pure silk. Obviously got a really nice v-neck I-cord detail. I think Petite Knit, her t-shirt has quite long t-shirt sleeves, and then here Amy Share has this like 3/4 length sleeve option, which I picked, and she also had a t-shirt option. I bought 2 skeins of hand dyed from one of my favorite dyers in the UK, the Fibre Fox, and this was in one of her sort of summer collection colors, which was called Summer Incarnate, which is this gorgeous blue. I was hesitating between a lot of colors. There was this gorgeous Barbie pink, this blue, there was a teal, there was a lilac. I was really inspired by the bright summery colors, and I went with this one in the end in the alpaca silk cashmere fingering base, which I worked with before with other dyers, and I really dislike the experience of knitting with it, but I really enjoy wearing the finished fabric. It's so drapey, it's really soft. I don't mind alpaca. If you do, then you might find this, I guess, a bit prickly. The cashmere and the silk is definitely making itself known in the way that it feels. It's kind of squishy and a bit, I don't want to say greasy, but it does feel kind of slippery in a way that alpaca on its own doesn't. And then the cashmere and the silk contributes to making this feel really soft next to skin. I'm just wearing a tank top here, but I know that I could also be wearing that next to skin, and I'm wearing this next to skin on the sleeves, and it's great. Because also this is a large v-neck and 3/4 length sleeves, the sensitive areas aren't touching the yarn. Like all of this, my chest is just really breathable, and my wrists are okay. So yeah, I'd recommend that you can dip your toes in this yarn base by making this pattern if you desired. I was tempted to use those yarns and this pattern together because I wanted to try and make the most use of 2 skeins of hand dyed. By this point you may know this about me, I'm really thrifty or cheap, depending on how you look at it. I don't like to pay too much for hand-dyed yarn, and I try to get as much garment as possible from as little yarn as possible, which is also why I play yarn chicken all the time. And I only bought 2 skeins of this hand-dyed, which is 800 meters. I was hoping to get something relatively long-sleeved and full length, because I don't love the idea of getting 2 skeins of hand-dyed and just making a t-shirt. I feel like that just gives me too much leftovers. In the end, I still got, I think, pretty much half a skein of leftover, so maybe I could make a little scarf out of this with 200 meters of yarn. Could see. But yeah, so it was quite an enjoyable experience to work on this because the yarn color was so pretty. It was a new pattern to follow from a new to me designer. I did mention when I was talking about this in the previous episode, it was a compound raglan, which was quite tricky to keep track of, but the pattern comes with a table that you can print if you want, that literally describes row by row what you've got to do for each size. If you've got to increase for body, for sleeves, or for the v-neck, like it really describes everything. So I just used that the entire time, and it was fine. And then I worked on wooden needles, which helped a little bit with my sort of sensory issues working with metal needles with this yarn base, which was what put me off in a previous project. But I knew that I loved the final result, so I really wanted to power through. So then I came to the point of, I think, yeah, pretty much finishing the first skein of yarn when I was midway down the body and wondering whether I should go for full length or cropped length, and then what length sleeves I wanted to do. I guess in an ideal world I would have gone for full length sleeves and then like the body to kind of hit me at like the high hip, so not quite cropped but not like too long of a pullover either. I just wasn't sure I would be able to achieve that. And then I also kind of was curious about the 3/4 length sleeve wear. I don't really have a lot of this in my wardrobe, either ready to wear or knitted. I always kind of feel like, do 3/4 length sleeve look like it's not on purpose and you just ran out of yarn? Or is it a look that you do on purpose and can look purposeful? And I'm smitten. I'm totally in the camp of loving this. I think for the spring and summer, it's perfect and very versatile, and I was really hoping to wear this to Tangled Gala Shields a couple of weeks ago, and I couldn't because it was too warm. So I can see how this still would not be appropriate for all the weathers out there, but I think there's definitely going to be a lot of days where I can wear this here in Scotland, and in this beautiful colour, it's going to be screaming at me that it wants to get out and be seen by other people. I did a bit of tubular bind-offs on all of the, well no, yeah, on the sleeves and on the hem at the bottom. I did the set-up rounds. I'm doing this now. I think I mentioned last time that I think that this helps me have a neater bind-off, and it's just a bit more stable, a bit more tight, and it doesn't flare out as much because I usually have a loose tension. So I'm really liking this new tubular bind-off, and with a yarn that's has a tendency to not look the neatest when it's unblocked, I think that it helps making the finishing look a bit neater. The yarn, like I just said, at first was looking awful. I think I mentioned that in the very beginning. When I was just doing the yoke, it looked so bad, especially like the rowing out on the purl rows. Like the yarn is kind of loosely spun, so there's not a lot of twist to it, and it just looked all over the place and very bumpy, and stitches were going in different directions, almost like slanting in opposite directions because you're working back and forth a lot for the v-neck shaping. And once I blocked, I actually gave this a mid-project block and everything went away. It smoothed out so well. It really is like night and day, because I was really doubting whether this was going to be like a professional looking garment, you know, that was reflecting of my skills. I was worried that it was going to be looking very sloppy and I wouldn't be proud of it, but I'm really, really proud of how this looks. I love how even the tension is and the stitches are. It's really, really smooth and even. And I really like the fit of this compound raglan. I mean, I probably should talk about this more. I think the fit of the sleeves, like I said, I really liked. I actually did end up adding a few centimeters of length to my sleeves just to make them a little bit longer. I didn't want to run the risk of having them end at my elbow crease, which is what I ran into with like the Friday tee last time. But if you check out my Ravelry, you'll see the modifications that I did. I added a bit of length to the sleeves, and I think I did my body in between the two sizes that Amy Scher gives you instructions for. She gives instructions for a crop and then a hip length, which I think is just like full length. So I did in between of those two. I added the A-line shaping that she also calls for, because I did the Kutar top that had A-line shaping and I really enjoyed that. I think I like the drape of that a lot for summer garments. I also added just one, like the bust darts. There's a bit of bust shaping. I just did the first option. I think there's 2 cup sizes. I did the first one, and I can't really tell if that was a good idea or not. It wasn't a bad idea, but I don't know if the fit is that much improved. I've really not run into a lot of designers that have bust shaping. I feel like a lot of the current designers are very much doing all the boxy styles, and I've been meaning to dip my toes a bit more into really like shaping and fit, trying to find designers that give you instructions for this because it's not something that I can just improvise and do myself and adapt patterns to include them yet. I'm hoping to build those skills by first following patterns that do go through the motions of what is bust shaping, when should you use it, measuring your upper bust and then your full bust, like all of that I'm dipping my toes into, and Amy Sher's pattern was a really great way to learn about this. So yeah, if you have any recommendations for other designers that do a bit more extra shaping than the usual, petite knit and my favorite things knitwear, then please drop your recommendations below. I'm sure that me and a lot of other people would love to see those recommendations. But yeah, so I really like the fit. I like the compound raglan. It really feels like it has a bit of extra ease, obviously, but it doesn't feel like there's so much fabric at the underarm that's bunching or in the way. It's not too close to my armpit either, so there's lots of rooms to breathe. And I like the depth of the v-neck and the sleeves, like I said. The body, I guess it could have been a little bit shorter, but then this gives me the option of tucking it in. I know it's not for everyone, but I'm still in the camp of liking that trend. And I can see myself wearing this with nice skirts or also just with trousers, shorts. I think a modification that I did as well was that I didn't follow exactly the instructions for the applied I-cord. Amy Sher had a different way of doing it. I can't remember what she did and what I did, but I think the way that I did it was the usual method, which is when you go around and you pick up the stitches all around, then you cast on like 3 stitches, and then you do the like I-cord thing of knitting 2 and then knitting 2 together through the back loop and then slipping them back. So that's what I did. I think Amy Sher's version was that you would cast on the stitches and then pick up and knit them as you were doing the I-cord, whereas I had already done the job of picking up everything beforehand. I really don't think it matters. I think it gives the exact same result in the end. So I hope that was enough information. It was a bit scattered. I hadn't really made notes on this and I finished this a while ago. So yeah, I hope that I said everything that I wanted to say, but if you have any further questions, of course you're welcome to ask me. And like I said, I put my Ravelry page projects up to date, so you can check that out too. But yeah, I hope that you like it. I'm certainly really pleased with this summer knit, and I can't wait to maybe make more of Amy Sher's patterns, or just in general making more summer pullovers as opposed to camisoles this year. Okay, the next project that I want to talk about is my first whip, and it is the Maggie cardigan by Petite Knit. So this one is kind of like guilty pleasure type of knitting. Like I was going through a bit of a slump. I said last time, I finished so many projects that were long standing, and now my doors are wide open. I can do whatever I want, and I just didn't know what to do and what I wanted. So yeah, I thought that maybe doing something simple and predictable from a designer that I know I like and I like the fit of and blah blah blah, and then doing it in cashmere, which would obviously then make me very happy to work with and would be a pleasant experience. It wouldn't be a headache or anything, so I thought that would be a good way to choose a pattern. I'm doing the size extra small because I had gauge swatched and it just made sense for me. As always, my gauge was a bit too large, so normally I would be a size small, but I think this is going to work out for me. Using wooden needles, and I'm using a 3.25 for my main needle, and on the wrong side, because it's a cardigan, I'm using a 3mm, and that was to avoid rowing out because my pearls are looser. Sadly, it has not completely worked out, and I wonder if you're going to be able to see that when I'm showing you this on camera, but I can definitely still notice a bit of rowing out, and I am hoping that this would block out eventually. So I'll show you this and then I'll tell you what you're looking at. So this is the front of the cardigan. So yeah, that's it. So this is the back neck, and you've got the 2 fronts and then the kind of shoulders that have started increasing for the sleeves. This is a contiguous sleeve or English tailoring, I think. Petite Knit has made a few patterns with this, such as the Poppy Tee, the Leon sweater, and now of course the Maggie cardigan. I think it's really great to have this opportunity to try this construction technique in different garments. If you're not a t-shirt gal, then maybe the sweater will be good for you. And a cardigan, of course, is a really great thing to have in the wardrobe. I think everybody has always been saying, we need more cardigans this year, and I'm happy that this is going to be one of the ones that I finished this year. As you can see, the color is also very striking and vibrant and bright, and I'm really happy to have chosen this color as opposed to a grey. Of course, I like Petite Knit's pattern photos, but I thought that this would be really summery and would motivate me to again wear that with like blue jeans and a white t-shirt. And yeah, I can't wait to wear this and see what else I can pair it with. So I don't know if you can see much of my rowing out issues. I'll try and show you a bit more closer to the camera. If yeah, you can see on that sort of shoulder panel at the top here that there's a bit of rowing out, and I'm not super happy with that. I hope it blocks out, because it is going to be I guess a visible part of the top of my shoulder, the front, the sleeve, and everything is back and forth. So yeah, if I keep rowing out, it's not going to be a pleasant thing to look at the end. But I already went down the needle size. I feel like, of course, I could go down one further, but not midway through the project, so I'm just going to keep going as it is. I'm past that point in the construction, but I'll try and remember how you do the English tailoring. I think you basically cast on a panel at the back like you would for like a drop shoulder type thing, so you cast on, increase rapidly on the sides, and then you go around and you pick up some stitches like you would for like the front and the back, or for the two fronts rather, and then you actually go and you pick up for the sleeves immediately like you would for like a sock gusset. If you've done a sock, you probably know what I mean at this point. Usually you would have done those slipped stitches on the side of the flap, and then you go and you pick up for your gusset. That's kind of what happens here with the sleeve. And then what you have then is you join all of those pieces together, and if it was a sweater you would join in the round. Because it's a cardigan, you don't join in the round, you just have the front opening, and then you cast on just a little bit of stitches here for the front, and you do the same on the other side, and this is what will eventually sort of become the button band, I think, which you will end up picking up later. And I think for the Maggie cardigan it's just a simple 1x1 rib. So I hope that you can see this, what I mean with the casting on stitches for the front. I think this is a really nice way of having the neckline then, which will be like this, basically. So yeah, I really am enjoying this, because I like the construction. It was definitely keeping me on my toes at the beginning, because it's not something that I do every day, so even though I've already done this construction once before, it was kind of rediscovering it all over again. In fact, I had forgotten that the beginning was like a drop shoulder, so when I first cast on I was like, wait, was I wrong? Is it a drop shoulder? But it's not, it's the tailored English sleeve. But then you have to increase rapidly a lot for the sleeves and the body, and it's kind of like a raglan where you end up having so many stitches to work on, and it's just getting bigger and bigger every row. And here I'm at a section that just feels never ending, just before splitting for the sleeves. I just can't wait to reach that part. I'm getting really bored. So I'm looking forward to putting the sleeves on separate holders and then continuing down the body. I know that if it was a sweater I would have been faster, but I am needing more cardigans, and I shouldn't mind purling, and I don't really, but I'm just not really picking this up anymore as fast as I used to when I first cast this on in the first place. But I really like the color. The yarn, if I didn't mention before, is Cardiff Cashmere, and this is the color, I think, Funny. And a lot of you seem to like it in the previous episode. So yeah, here it is what it looks like in a knitted fabric. I think it's absolutely stunning. And yeah, I think maybe once I put the sleeves on hold, maybe I will give it a mid-project block to see if the yoke fits the way I want it to, and then to see if it blocks out the way I want it to. And then in the meantime, while it dries, I'll be working on the second whip, which I guess I will now talk about. Swift transition. The second project I had also mentioned in the previous episode. I said I was going to do it, and I'm doing it, so woman of my word. And I've actually already put this one on a holder because I am intending to give this a block today. Because I also have some worries about things that I want to confirm before continuing on. So this is the blouse number 1 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. I've honestly only ever heard great things about this pattern. Every video that I've watched of people mentioning it, love it so much, have maybe made even 2 versions. I think that could be me in the future. I'm also really much enjoying this. So I'm doing this in Knitting for Olive Pure Silk in the color Ice Blue, which is also making me really happy. And I'll show you what I've got. So I have not split for sleeves now, but I've almost got the required stitches. So this is what it looks like. And you might be able to tell what my worry is. It's that it's too small. The neck opening is definitely what my biggest worry is. And then for the rest, like I said, I still have a few rounds to do, but not that many. That will hopefully then give me more stitches in both sleeves, the back and the front. And then I know that for this type of construction, you're also going to cast on maybe a bit more at the underarm. So I think that this should be enough to then go around my body comfortably. I'm doing the size extra small because once again, I had some gauge issues. I swatched with this yarn, the Knitting for Olive, and I had 16 stitches instead of 19, which obviously is so off. And that was already going down the needle size to a 4.5 instead of 5. So I thought I wouldn't swatch again, I would just go down even further, go to a 4mm, and then cast on the size under. Because I didn't think that going down one needle size would remove completely those 3 extra stitches. Yeah, so I thought that I would do the size extra small because then that would counteract for the fact that I was probably still going to be off gauge. Then when I was still having the project on the needles, I quickly measured the gauge and it looked like I was at like 20 or 21. So then it was too tight and I was like, wait, how is that possible that I like have so many more extra stitches? But I kept going because I told myself I would reach this like stop point here and then I would block and figure it out. And then now that it's off the needles, I measured gauge again, unblocked, and I think now I'm exactly on gauge, so I'm at 19. But I really think this is pure silk held double. Everybody always says that it grows so much in all directions, so I think that once I block it, that 19 probably will transform into like 18 or 17 even, and so then it would still make sense to go for the size extra small like I plan to. So that's why I'm going to block it now, and then if it is too large, I will continue with the instructions for size extra small. And if it is the same gauge, so 19 stitches, I will then kind of switch my strategy and follow the instructions for size small, like the pattern, like that's what my size should be. So I hope that makes sense. I guess this doesn't really matter to a lot of people, but I guess it's just to continue documenting the fact that I'm always having to go down needle sizes and to still size down on projects, and sometimes there's not really a lot of sizes I can go down to, from small to extra small. There's not that many other options. This sleeve construction is different than the English tailoring that I've just talked about for the Maggie cardigan, but it's also something that's a little different than usual. So you start off with your front and your back, and you basically only have 1 stitch per sleeve, and I'll show you a close-up of that. So you've got 1 stitch per sleeve, and then you're increasing alongside that stitch, kind of like a raglan. And this is what you're seeing here at the top. So you're going in like those 2 directions. And then after a very short while, you then start increasing inside of that raglan because you're wanting to make room for that sleeve cap. And so all this increasing ends up nicely shaping a shoulder. And then the beginning raglan that I talked about kind of sits above your shoulder. So you've got, a nice little shoulder cap on both sides. And people have said that what they like about this blouse construction is that the line here for the shaping is really straight looking, as opposed to like the diagonal raglan. I think for this compound raglan from Amy Shear, you also have something that's relatively straight, which is something that just espouses the shape of your body better than straight lines would. I mean diagonal lines, like the raglans. But I can't talk much about the fit just yet, because obviously I've tried this on, I put it through over my head, first of all to see if I could, and I could. But I wanted to see how this looked like on my shoulders, and yeah, it does definitely sit where it's supposed to, but it could do with a bit more widening. So I'm hoping that that's what I'll get, and I guess I could always stretch it a bit with the block. Then, the last thing I wanted to mention was the neck opening. So I've done a lot of research for this blouse. I really wanted to see what other people had said about it, and everybody had kind of the same opinion, which is funny because one of the flagship items of this blouse is that it has no finishing. So the neck edging, the arms, the bell sleeves, and the body, all of it is just bound off or just cast on. And it's funny because a lot of people, myself included, are maybe a bit reticent to do that, and were thinking that it was a little too unfinished, and we were worried that it was going to roll, etc. And so people have ways to counteract this by, for example, doing I-cords in the sleeves and the body, which my Favorite Things Knitwear gives instructions or recommends doing in the pattern itself. But for the cast on for the neck, she also says to do it very tightly. She suggests a long tail cast on. I was worried that I wouldn't be able to get that right, because it's all relative, isn't it? Like, someone's tight cast on might not be the same as another person's, and I was worried that the neck was going to roll or be weird. There are a couple of short rows at the back, not that many compared to other patterns, so at least it'll not be like a really choky boat neck, which I know some people have said was the issue with a few of other patterns out there for boat necks that just have no shaping whatsoever. This one at least has a bit of thinking behind it, even though it's like looking unfinished. But Tangerine Knits, Ichi, has made this blouse before, and she said that the way she did her cast on was doing a cable cast on, or it was a knitted cast on, I can't remember, but I put it on my Ravelry, and I thought that that was a really great idea because that would be probably the tightest thing to do, and it was easy to do, and at least you don't have to gauge the length of your tail or anything, so I thought that I would do that. So I did that for the size extra small, and I really struggled with how tight it was. I forgot how tight it was to work with that cast on and do the first round of stitches afterwards, but I still did it. And then yeah, as I was working through this yoke, I really was thinking that this neck opening was just so small and that there's no way that I'd be able to fit my head. It's really not stretchy, like you cannot gain a lot more by stretching, and I don't want to break the yarn. But it does go over my head, so I don't know if blocking is going to change the head opening or not. In terms of rolling, I guess it does a little bit. When I'm holding it like that, you can see there's a little bit of rolling, but not to the point that you can see the wrong side of it. I guess you can just kind of see the edge of the cast on, and it just kind of looks like a line of slip stitches or something, so it's quite nice actually. I just hope it doesn't roll that much more. And then in terms of the sleeves and the body, I'll see later, probably on a sleeve first, whether I just bind it off or if I do an I-cord. It doesn't really matter too much right now. So like I said, I will block this and see the gauge and then continue with the shaping, but we're really close to just splitting for sleeves, same as my cardigan, so then I'll have two lots of bodies to do and two lots of sleeves. But they're quite different tactile experiences. Working with a pure silk, I really like doing. I'm careful not to pull too much yarn out of it, otherwise it tangles. Like you can see how it has a tendency to like want to touch itself like that. But yeah, I'm just pulling from those two balls, and I have 6 in total, so I'll always be working with those 2 balls, like in pairs, and it's really, really enjoyable to work on. It's quite dry. It's still a fair amount of elasticity to it, as opposed to like linen or cotton. I still think that it's not too bad on my hands or anything to work on it, and I'm working on it with wooden needles, and it's not too slippery, and it's not too catchy either. So still really enjoy this yarn, and I'm looking forward to using it in more projects down the line. The only conundrum I always have is what color to pick for what project, and I don't like to commit to a color for one project and then not be able to use it again for future ones. I don't want to have 2 things of the same color. So for this blouse, which was going to be so much fabric, I really wanted to pick my favorite color of all the shades, because that's, you know, if I did a camisole, that's only like a little bit of fabric. This one is like so much of my body is covered in this color, so I really wanted to like the color. Yeah. Okay, so next work in progress is very, very exciting to talk about. It's my Yell cardigan by Mary Wallen. Like I said, a lot of you commented, messaged me, DM'd me about my Yell cardigan, and my question to you, that was, is it too large? Am I making a huge mistake? I showed it off on camera. A couple people said that it looked like you could put 2 of me in it, and I agree. I didn't want to frog it. It was a lot of work already, and it was a lot of colors that I had cut and everything, so I didn't want to have to waste all that yarn or just have a lot of ends to deal with, and I just really didn't want to frog, basically. But it was clear from all the comments that I couldn't just keep going. It would have been foolish of me to attempt to, because everybody was of the same opinion that it was just going to be a regret down the line. So what a lot of people had suggested in the comments and in the DMs was, instead of frogging, I would be able to just bind off the excess stitches and then make a new steek that was basically cinching in the diameter, and then keep going. So that's what I did. So I'll show you what I have, and then I'll show you the modification. So here's the length of my cardigan now, or the width even. Oh, it looks so good! So you can see there's 5 motifs here. It's rolling up at the top, obviously, but there's 5 little flower guys, and yeah, I'm really on track for it to work out. So this is the width now, as opposed to what it was before. And I think you will agree that this is much more reasonable. Like, it's obviously still going to leave me with some positive ease. If you're thinking that this is going to be open and have a button band, it definitely, if anything, I'm worried it's going to be too small now, because I did remove so much. But I'm not too worried, because like I said, it will be like an open cardigan without any buttons. And there's still positive ease. So yeah, we're doing great. And it was a really lovely idea to actually stop and bind off some stitches. So as you can see here at the bottom, let's talk about the little flowers. There's a certain amount of pattern repeats all around for the smallest size, which I was following. I ended up figuring out my gauge and counting and doing some math, and Ross helped me out a lot with that. Like, I really didn't want to mess it up, and I wanted to strike a right balance. So the gauge recommended on 3.25mm needles is 29 stitches. I'm using 2.5mm needles, and I'm at 26 stitches. So again, 3 stitches off, which added up really make a big difference. And in the end, I was, I think, 10 or 15 centimeters. I think I was 15 centimeters larger than what I was supposed to be. So I think that's about 6 inches. I decided that I was going to remove some of those repeats, but I really wanted it to be even. I didn't want to do like half a repeat or anything. So then I had a conundrum where either I wasn't going to remove enough or I was going to remove too much. And in the end, I decided to go with too much, just to be safe. And I removed 4 flowers, which is a lot. And I think that ended up being, that ended up being 25 centimeters of diameter, of circumference that I removed, and I was 15 over. So what this means is that now I'm 10 centimeters smaller than what the smallest size should be, which is fine because we had a bit of room to work with anyway with that smallest size. Yeah, okay. So that's what it used to be before, and now you can obviously see then what happened is that I removed 2 flowers here on that side of the stick, and then 2 flowers here on the other side. And then on my round here, I bound off all of those stitches, and no, I didn't bind them off. I put them on hold on a scrap piece of yarn. So all of these stitches are on hold currently. And then what I did was that the beginning of round marker, remember, is in the middle of the stick stitches. So here then I kept my original 5. I kept my original 5 stick stitches. Then I cast on 5 new stitches and then continued then that new part of the stick that wasn't originally there. But you can see that those lines were there from the start. Doesn't really matter, but because all of this part that's on this side I'm keeping, and then this part here that's the extra I'll be just cutting away. And I'll be cutting away on my middle stick here when the time comes. And look at the difference! This is so different. Like, this is a good enough circumference. This definitely was not it. Yeah, so thank you so much to everyone who commented, encouraged me very gently. Like, you guys were very, very kind about your feedback. And you're right, it would have been silly to just continue on with something that I had doubts about since the very first week of working on it. So that was exciting to do, and then now it means that I have so many less stitches to work on. I think I removed about 65 stitches, so it's been faster to work on. I'm not hating this part. I thought that I would become really bored with it and not be able to memorize it, and that it would have to like catch floats a lot. It's actually not that bad, and it's going faster than I thought it would. I'm actually past the halfway point, if my calculations are correct. I've actually just now cast on for the underarm, but I'll just talk about that in a bit. But yeah, I think that this grey section is quite satisfying to do because then you can really see the progress of having your little blocks form. And I'm enjoying working with the grey. I'm still having a lot of fun seeing the colours. By the way, the colour palette is wholly inspired by 100 Acre Wool here on YouTube and on Instagram. She made this version a couple of years ago, and it was really inspiring to see it, so I just used the same colours that she did, and it's a joy to look at. So this bottom part has been blocked, and this top part hasn't yet. It's a little stiffer and less drapey than the bottom. if you've noticed, the bottom is actually also, like, it's held on some scrap yarn. It's a provisional cast on that I did because I wanted to go back later and do a folded hem, because I noticed a lot of people complaining about the moss stitch edge originally rolling and flipping and everything, so I wanted to avoid that. So I've calculated that my little edge later is going to be 3 centimeters. This part here is 17 centimeters. And then I wanted to reach, I'm going to make my armhole smaller. I think I'm going to remove maybe 5 or 10 centimeters of the armhole. So I want to make the rest of the body longer before I started the armholes, just to keep the body length approximately the same. And in the end, what's going to happen is that my whole size of the cardigan is going to be 5 centimeters cropped compared to the original. I'm making the armhole depth smaller because Mari Wallin has you start off with like a big armhole and then like slowly decrease to have a smaller circumference of your wrist afterwards. She has like a shaped tapered sleeve, but a lot of other people on YouTube and on Ravelry have made straight sleeves, so I'm just kind of needing that circumference to just be what my sleeve is going to be at the end, with a bit extra just to make sure that they're not too cinched in at the underarm. So I've done all those calculations already for the sleeve. I'm going to be casting on 64 stitches, which actually, funnily enough, is what I'm removing here. So technically that should be a good test of that extra bit should be my arm circumference for a sleeve. And that works out great, doesn't it? Yeah, so that'll be my sleeve. Oh, it would be great actually if I could recycle this and literally use that as my sleeve. Do you think I could? I'll look into that. Yeah, that would be really great, because I'm not planning to make any increases or decreases, so I literally just need my 64 stitches and then continue with the grey motif to the length that is required, and then afterwards I'm going to graft that to my armhole opening. That'll be later, and it'll actually be probably quite fun to just work on a sleeve alone without it being attached to the body, so it's just a bit more portable, because this is becoming quite the behemoth to hold. The other modification that I did that I'm really proud of and also required quite a lot of calculation is a V-neck shaping. So I saw again a few people doing it on Ravelry and I took their advice and inspiration. So I wanted to have a V-neck that was 25 centimeters deep and then 15 centimeters wide. So 15 centimeters wide is like 7.5 on each side of the V-neck. And I calculated with my gauge, stitch and row gauge that to achieve this what I would need was to decrease overall 18 stitches, so 9 on each side, and to do that every 5 rounds for a total of I think 80 rounds or something. I can't remember, but the math was there. And so I decided to start doing that. I thought it was going to be as easy as doing that, but then I encountered a couple of questions, which was where do I place my decrease? Do I do a knit two together or a slip stitch knit? And what color do I do that in? And in the end I just kind of went with my gut and what I thought was going to be correct. So I'm placing my decreases as literally the first stitch after the steek, like the outermost steeks, and I'm just placing my decrease there. I am starting my round with a knit two together and I'm ending my round with a slip knit. I read somewhere that when you're doing color work, that's the best way to achieve the correct stitch that goes on top of the other stitch to get the dominant color that you want above the other one, as opposed to when you were doing something in one color, you would do the opposite direction of the decreases to then have your decreases slant in the same direction as your V-neck seam would. But yeah, I hope that makes sense. It's just what I did. And then the last thing that I was gonna say was that, yeah, I'm just doing it in the color that is appearing on my chart. So obviously my chart, for example, if it was saying, you know, black, grey, if I've already decreased one stitch in the previous round, then I wouldn't do black, grey. I would then do black, grey, because I'm just ignoring that first column now because I've decreased it. And that's what I'm doing all around. So far it's working. It's not too much of a headache. I haven't forgotten any, and I've only done 3 decreases over 15 rounds. And I'll show you my stick and the kind of motif on either side. You can tell me if you're noticing anything so far. I feel like I can't really see that it's being decreased. So like it's like that little, that diamond here is split in half by the stick, and that guy is split in half too at the stick, and it's just that slowly we're gonna like lose that middle motif, and the stick is like slowly going to eat into those 2 flowers as well later. Yeah, I guess I thought it would be more visible by now, but it's still kind of subtle, but I hope to be taking a photo later of the stick to show that there's a bit of a slant happening. I'm really excited. I hope it works out. I've seen a few examples of people having done that v-neck, and I think it looks really great, as opposed to the zero shaping, or almost zero shaping, that takes place in this garment, because it's really just basically a huge rectangle, which is going to have 2 rectangles for sleeves. And then lastly, I reached the point where I had to then cast on for the underarm stick, and then I had a bit of a conundrum once again, because a lot of the patterns or videos that I've seen around casting on underarm stick stitches involve you binding off stitches and then casting on the same amount. So if you had to cast on 9 stick stitches at the underarm, you'd be binding off 9 stitches. Murray Wallen like absolutely doesn't mention that anywhere, and I really thought it would be too important to not mention, and I haven't seen anybody on Ravelry mention that either. Nobody seems to have bound off stitches. You literally just like reach the point where you're supposed to stop, bind off, like she says 5 stick stitches, but I put 9. So I stop there, I cast on 9 stitches, and then I pick back up exactly where I stopped. And I'll show you what that looks like. It's so tiny at the moment. I'll probably insert a photo or show you in the next episode. But it's like almost like a little keyhole detail where I've demarked my armhole by like 2 stitch markers here. So as you can see, this is my stick cast on. So I didn't bind off anything here at the bottom. These are literally just 2 dark stitches next to each other. And then there's 9 stitches that I cast on, alternating my grey and light grey. And then there's just the 2 stitch markers to show that. So that's just tiny, but I think it's fine because you literally just need to like insert your scissors through that hole to then cut your stick, and I've done the same on the other side. Because I had removed so many stitches from the pattern, I had to recalculate the numbers, but basically Murray Wallen has you just like split your cardigan in half, and then, you know, so you have the same amount of stitches at the front and at the back, and then you just put the armholes on either side of that. So basically just divide the body in quarters. So I just did that with the numbers that I had, and I think it's going to work out fine. I've counted a couple of times, and it looks like I've got the same amount of stitches after my stick stitches and beginning of round marker, so that my sleeves are placed on the same at the same ratio from the center. All that to say, I was getting a bit bored with the grey, but then I started the v-neck shaping, which was kind of nice to work through, and then I've now cast on for my underarm stick stitches. I've said stick so many times now. And now I basically have, so I have 15 centimeters of this grey section, and now I've got to do 15 centimeters of it still, with my armholes being catered for. And then I've got to do the shaping of the short row, like back shaping, which I'll talk about when I come to it. I'm planning to do something different than what the pattern calls for, again with the help of very helpful YouTubers and Ravelers. But yeah, so basically halfway through the grey, and it's looking great. I will look into whether I'm able to recycle this extra panel. I was planning to just like cut it and maybe frame it or something because it looks gorgeous, but now I'm wondering if I can use that as my beginning of like sleeve. That would be really, really great for saving me some time. I'll see if that's possible to do. I think it might be, and then I'll just seam it from the stick, although it might be quite difficult, but I think it might be doable. Let me know if you think that this is a lost cause or if there's a way to make that work. But thanks again for all the feedback and obviously all the compliments as well that you said since seeing this project on the podcast episode last time, and also for the encouragements that you gave me regarding my fear of not filming enough and missing out on important bits of the cardigan. You told me to just do what I want and record it if I can, and also what I can do is just record it and not necessarily do a podcast, but just save the footage for later. So I might do that as well. Okay, so that's it for the main podcast. I'll just talk quickly about my future plans. Sari Nordlund has just released the first pattern for her summer shawl knit-along. She used to do a summer sock knit-along the last few years, but now it's a shawl mini scarf thing, and she's just released the first one, the Poet Shawl. There's going to be 2 more, one in July, one in August, and I'm super excited to do this. I love mini scarves and shawls more than I do socks. I really want to use my stash hand-dyed for this, and I was really brainstorming and finding lonely skeins of yarn that I had. Usually they're fingering or lace, so I would have to find a coordinating color in my stash, maybe from a commercial yarn. And I had this big bag, and then now is the time to actually do it. So I've got this, I'll put the image here of the shawl. Let me know what color combination or what skein of yarn you think I should use for this. I'll tell you my thoughts and the pros and cons. Firstly, we've got this skein of yarn from the Fiber Fox. It's a 60% superwash merino, 20% yak, 20% silk. So it's really nice and drapey and bouncy. I think my worry about this is that it might be too dark to really showcase the lace pattern too well. And also my second worry is that I kind of foresee Sari releasing the next scarf to be a cabled one, because she usually has cables or lace in her mini scarves. And I think that this really round, plump DK yarn would lend itself better to cables rather than lace. So the only reason I wouldn't be using this one for the current scarf is because I think it would just serve better later, but there's no way to know that yet because it's a knit along that you kind of have to like do in real time. The next one is also from the Fiber Fox, and this was from her Summer Court collection. It's called Cherry Blossom, and it's 74% baby alpaca suri and 26% mulberry silk, 300 meters, which is fine for the mini scarf. It just requires 220. And then I've got some Isayer Alpaca 1, no, Alpaca 2. This is the 50-50 merino alpaca. This is leftovers from like 5 projects at this point, but I think it lends itself really well to this one because I've mentioned this before that this has yellow warm undertones, and so does this one. So I think that they would go really well together, and it would give me a very drapey, soft scarf, very alpaca heavy. And I think that this would go really well actually with the lace of the Poet scarf. My worry with this one is that I think out of all my yarn combinations, this is my favorite one. And I don't know if I'm ready to commit just yet to using that one for this scarf, because what if the next scarf I like even more and I would have wanted to use that one for that. So let me know if that's crazy. We've got 2 more options. So we've got this skein of yarn from Zakami. It's a 50-50 merino silk base, and this is called Turkish Delight. And we've got this Fiber Spate Cumulus in the color Blush. I'm not actually sure they're a great match. Looking at it on camera, I don't think they are. I guess I could just start the scarf and see if it works. I'm hoping it does, but if it doesn't, that's fine. I'm actually stealing this from a cardigan quantity, which I'm not super eager to do, but I really wanted to use my stash. So I wouldn't be devastated if I couldn't use these 2 together, and then that can go back to where it belonged in that cardigan quantity. But I really wanted to get this out of my stash, and I don't really have any other strand to hold this with. But I might see. Maybe I do have something that could work. And then lastly, I've got this skein of yarn from Pigment and Ply, which is called All the People I've Ghosted. It's 100% superwash merino, 400 meters. My worry with this one is that it's too variegated, and it would hinder whatever motif Sari would have, either lace or cables. Because, you know, she does recommend you using solids or semi-solids for her heavily patterned textures and things, but I think that it could still work. Like, it's not that crazy. It's kind of just like heathered and tonals, and they're all the same kind of shade or intensity. And I thought that I would either hold this together with a strand of fingering merino in the color Mole, because I feel like this is a really good summary of whatever is happening here. And I think that if anything, this would help tone down the variegation, bring it all together into one unified brown color, and then together they would make a great texture. I just still worry that it wouldn't be the best suited for this particular Poet pattern. but let me know. And then if this doesn't work together, because those are two fingering ones, even though this is light fingering, I was also thinking of using a lace, which is Filcolana alva, which is just 100% alpaca lace weight, which is also the same kind of principle of it being a really good tonal match. And because it's lace, then again, it would not be too thick. It would still give me the drape that I want in a mini scarf. It wouldn't be the same as like a halo from a fluffy yarn, but I think it would be a great thing to have texture wise and sensory wise, to just have something that's like airier than a DK, so still holding two strands together. I guess I've done quite a lot of holding a lace weight with a fingering as opposed to holding like a mohair, and I really do like doing that. So I think that the light alpaca maybe might work better than the dark merino, although you tell me, what do you think I should pair with it? So yeah, these are my choices. I'll put a photo here on the screen of what we've got, and let me know what you think I should do the poet scarf in. Let me know if you're participating in the summer shawl knit along, and if you have other mini scarves that you like that I could just do anyway, even though it's not part of the knit along. I think Sari even said that if you don't like one of the scarf patterns that she's going to come up with, you're more than welcome to just do one of her other mini scarves. So I think she's got like the Lolu shawl, obviously, the Colette scarf. Maybe I could just do another Lolu shawl, honestly. I love doing it so much before in my Cardiff Cashmere sport weight, so I think it could work really well with like my DK weight here, for example, or a fluffy, obviously. So yeah, I think I might do even more than just the 3 scarves for her knit along and just really power through all my stash of single skeins of hand dyed, which is a really great way to use those single skeins for mini scarves. I think it's something that I don't particularly wear a lot, or like I would never buy one in a shop, but I think it's just such a great way to use up a skein of hand dyed in a way that maybe suits me better than the socks, because I enjoy the experience of knitting it better, and I feel like you just get to experience the colorway in a way that doesn't necessarily pull, and it's like small repeats of rounds. So if you had a variegated yarn that had like blue speckles that were coming back a lot, maybe those blue speckles would get lost in a sweater that was like too large for round repeats. But in a sock or in a shawl, obviously, those blue speckles would be closer together, so that would look more similar to what the yarn looked like in a skein. So I think what I want to do is, if I find hand-dyed yarn that I really like the look of in a skein, is just make a mini scarf with it, and just kind of, even if I don't wear it, it's just a representation of what the skein was, and a way for me to keep the skein in my life in knitted form, and to still visually see those colors that made me want to buy it in the first place. So it's not necessarily something that I want to wear, but it's just a fabric that I want to own and see and display. Almost like if it was a sample in a yarn shop, and it could just be like a little scarf that I would have on my crafty desk or in my shelf or something, or like I could hang it on a little hook or something. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to just filling my craft room with a bit more samples and displays. Okay, and then last but not least, I just wanted to say a quick thank you for 10,000 subscribers. You guys are the best. I didn't think we were gonna get there so fast since the last video, but we did, so that's really great. And yeah, what an achievement. I'm not really like in the mindset or ready to plan anything for it. Like I don't think there's going to be another 12-hour live stream this summer or this winter, but I was contacted by Claire from Cookston Crafts a couple weeks ago. She asked me if I wanted to give away one of her treat boxes as a giveaway for my viewers, and I said of course. That was really generous of her to offer, and I saw her at Tangled Gala Shields. She gave me the box, and I thought that I would just give it away to one of you guys. So it's not necessarily like the 10k giveaway, but it's happening at the same time, so yay! So here's the treat box from Cookston Craft. You can see the picture here. This is the theme of it. I've decided to leave it a surprise for you guys, so this is all you're gonna see. Just comment below, and then just any comment will be entered. You don't need to answer any specific question, just comment below, and it's open worldwide, so I'll just send that out anywhere in the world and you'll be entered to participate. I'll just pick the winner in 1 week with a random comment generator, and then I'll announce the winner, or also I'll get in touch with you if I already know your details. I'll leave Claire's Cookston Crafts details in the description below for her website if you don't know what our treat box is. It's kind of a mystery sort of yarn and goodies all packed up, curated in a box for you that you can get from her like monthly. I don't think it's a subscription that you've got to pay for and commit for 12 months. You can like opt in and opt out. It's not something that I've done, but I've looked at the ones she reveals month after month, and I'm always really tempted, and she does a really great job at making something that looks very cohesive and looks like a real joy to open as a treat on your doorstep. So yeah, thanks again Claire for offering this to one of my lucky viewers. I hope that you guys participate and enjoy it, and if you're really curious to know what's in the box, then check out my video next week. I've done a little vlog all about gala shields, and I've done an unboxing of that box so everybody could see the goodies, and most importantly the yarn inside that is on the theme of the fig. That's everything for me, guys. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I feel a little out of practice and like I talked a lot. Definitely gonna get a drink of water. I hope that it was informational? I think informational. I hope that this video was informational and that you learned a thing or two or got inspired. Let me know if anything that I've shown you or talked about made you think or made you add something to your queue. I always really like hearing those kind of comments. I've been doing really well the last couple weeks. I've really enjoyed working on my yellow cardigan and seeing that body of it really grow a lot, and working on my brightly coloured summer knits, my little cardigan, my pure silk. It's really nice to be working with those colours. And yet I'm still feeling like I want to cast on more things, but I just am scared of committing, and I don't want to launch myself into a big project that I'm going to keep on the needles for months and like begrudgingly have to work on. I really just want to cast on something that I'm going to enjoy. I just don't know what it is, but I think the little scarf actually will be a real joy to work on. So help me please by saying below what you think I should use for that combo, and if you have any ideas of what you think Sari is gonna release, like the next couple scarves or the Lolu shawl. Like if you know how I can use my yarn, tell me, because I have a bit too much and then I just get overwhelmed with choice. So then my Tangled Gala Shields vlog will be released, and then I don't know when the next podcast will be. Might take a little summer break to just kind of relax and do other things. But yeah, can someone please tell Scotland that it is summer and that it is allowed to be more than 10 degrees outside, please? I'm freezing all the time. But yeah, it was great catching up with you guys. I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you really liked the video, then maybe give it a like here on YouTube, maybe subscribe if you haven't already, or yeah, tell a friend or two about the channel, and comment below to participate in the giveaway if you want to win the yarn or the treat box. Take good care of yourselves, happy knitting, and see you all later. Bye!